Matt, can you hear me? Devon has a mic. Do you want us to try to plug that in, or how do you? Okay.
Hi, Matt. How are you? Oh, it's so nice to hear your voice. I miss you guys. Oh, it's very sweet of him to share this with me. He's a good brother-in-law. I would love to help you guys out. You just let me know you have my email information and let me know. I'll get on the phone with you. Tell me how to set everything up. We'll go from there. Anytime that Bruce can't do it, I don't want to take his work from him. Oh, I think he does. You know what he's doing? He keeps telling me, I've been reading, and I'm like, well, I'm so happy to hear you're reading, and then he goes, no, on the radio, and I'm like, oh, got it. The battle though.
I'm fine. Are we live yet, Matt? Okay, good enough. He's going to introduce us. So however you want to do it, you want to bust it on the first story?
No, you go first.
Okay. And then over here,
and you just set it up where we
see at the half-hour mark.
Good to me.
And you can put comments.
The fuck is the problem? No, I guess not.
I don't know. I'm not sure if AOC would but
okay.
No, but actually they are, because they are free speech.
I know. I'm just No, I don't think you can. I think that's
So last night we had a 3.5 hour class
with
so Rachel set it up with this NCIS thing, or actually it's produced on Kennedy.
Right.
Everybody had scenes from their age range. We had okay, and we had 13 actors, and they all read each of their scenes twice.
I would like to kill myself. You're a good man.
But I was the reader. I read for all most of it. So it was really interesting. And then
You're still terrible. I've been trying to reassess my feelings.
Good morning, Acadiana. You're listening to music by attribution licensed, copyrighted music from Dig CC Mixter, as usual. Whenever I'm streaming the news anyway. My name is Matt Roberts. I'm AOC Community Media's production manager, and we are bringing you the news this morning in partnership with The Advocate. As usual, every weekday we bring this to you between the hours of 9 and 10, and we'll even be going a little long on Cypress Street and YouTube today. So if you're watching on AOC 1 and you have the capability to tune in Cypress Street Radio, which you can do on your phone, just Google Cypress Street Radio. It'll pull right up. Or you can search for AOC Community Media on YouTube. And I am joined this morning, thankfully, again, by Bruce Cohen, and I'm going to let him introduce his special guest. Bruce, are you there?
I am here. I am ready and willing. And a good morning to you all out there in Acadiana land. And I do have a special guest reading with me this morning. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Danon.
And Danon is one of our volunteer readers.
Yeah.
So we will be promoting that as well, but we will be doing what we have been normally doing for the whole pandemic hit, which is in the studio, we would have two people read the news stories. So we will be going back and forth. We hope you enjoy our broadcast this morning. Thank you, Matt, and we'll see you at the other end.
Thanks, you guys. You're sounding great. And we should mention that you guys are family, so you're still practicing safe social distancing practices. You're just family, so you've been quarantined together for a while.
Yes,
sure. Of course we are.
Thanks to both of you so much for volunteering to read the news this morning. I'm going to jump off of this connection and listen on Cypress Street like the rest of the audience.
Okay, good enough. You can't see it, folks, but I am holding a bottle of Perel or hand sanitizer in my hands. So we are practicing all of the protocols.
He keeps squirting it all over my face, but we're actually doing fine. Thank you.
So to start off with, clear my throat here. Some stores in Lafayette may open Friday, today. Hillary promotes safe shop policy, article by Claire Taylor. Some Lafayette Parish businesses closed for weeks because of the coronavirus may reopen as early as Friday or today. Lafayette Parish Mayor President Josh Hillary, flanked by mayors, law enforcement, and other officials, announced at a news conference yesterday afternoon he was allowing more businesses to reopen their doors at midnight. Businesses not deemed essential by the governor's executive orders, but not specifically prohibited from opening, Hillary said, may open under a safe shop policy, so long as they limit the number of people allowed inside at one time, employees wear masks, and everyone practices social distancing. 60% of the parish's businesses, Hillary said, fall into this category. They include small retail shops, clothing stores, bridal shops, furniture stores, and jewelry stores. Not allowed to open are fitness centers, hair and nail salons, or any business where a 6-foot distance between people is not possible. Tammy Angel, Chief Communications Officer with Lafayette Consolidated Government, said. Hillary said he consulted with the parish's medical task force, area mayors, the health department, and others before making his decision, which he says is in compliance with the governor's executive orders. We are all committed, he said, to ensuring our people are protected as much as possible under these circumstances. At the same time, Guillory encouraged residents to stay at home in compliance with another of the governor's orders, saying, please only go out of your house if you need to. Dr. Doug Clement of Our Lady of Lourdes supports the safe shopping policy, saying we've got to be able to open up some of these businesses to get the economy rolling again, but must do so safely. We need to start bringing our lives back online. Hospitals, Clement said, are not overburdened right now and can handle additional patients. We're busy but not overflowing, not in our surge plan, he said. We have the ability to absorb some of this. Governor John Bell Edwards on Wednesday, Guillory said, acknowledged the stay-at-home and social distancing policies are working to slow the spread of COVID-19. Guillory said he believes Lafayette Parish has done a good job complying with the governor's orders. Meanwhile, he said the economic toll has been little short of devastating. Over the past 4 weeks, 18,912 residents filed initial unemployment claims, Guillory said. The week of April 5th through 11th alone, 4,091 unemployment claims were filed, he said, calling it by far unprecedented. Under the safe shop policy, employees must wear masks and should not work if they have fever or other symptoms of COVID-19. Customers should keep at least 6 feet between one another while shopping and standing in line. When a shop reaches 25% of the maximum capacity as determined by the fire code or fire marshal, no one else should enter, Guillory said. Because that violates the measures may face action, he said, including a $500 fine and up to 6 months in the parish jail, as well as having their electricity disconnected. Starting Monday, business owners needing more information on the new policy, they call 311 option 2 and speak with someone from the Lafayette Economic Development Authority. The service will be open at 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday. Edwards said in a news conference Thursday morning yesterday, warned COVID-19 is not going away. As a state, we're going to see new COVID-19 cases throughout the year, he said. Edwards also announced Thursday the creation of an 18-person Resilient Louisiana Commission of Public and Private Sector Experts to help assemble a game plan for reopening businesses while protecting public health. During a virtual town hall with the Advocate on Thursday afternoon, Edwards said Louisiana will not be among the first states to reopen for business because of its high rate of COVID-19 infections and deaths, especially in the New Orleans area. And that's my opinion. Statewide, 53 additional deaths were reported Thursday, bringing the total to 1,156. The number of cases of COVID-19 in the state increased by 581, bringing the total to 22,532. In Lafayette Parish, 387 people have tested positive for COVID-19 and 16 have died.
Okay. COVID-19 coronavirus, the latest. State prepping for reopening. Edwards names economic panel, but unknowns abound, by writer Sam Carlin. Excuse me. With Louisiana experiencing a flattening of coronavirus cases, the state is prepping for a phased reopening of the economy as Governor John Bell Edwards names an economic task force and health officials work on modeling aimed at informing how and when to let people return to businesses. But huge unknowns remain, including when the state will get the widespread testing needed to allow the reopening, how much immunity people have after contracting the virus, and how many additional deaths can be expected in Louisiana as the virus begins spreading more quickly again. We just don't have a lot of the answers yet because we're still working through this, Edwards said at a news conference yesterday. The White House on Thursday gave Edwards and other governors guidance on how to best restart their economies, a plan involving a 3-phased reopening of businesses and schools, each lasting 14 days, to make sure the virus doesn't spike again. Those most susceptible, and everyone in states that see a rebound amid the reopening, could be faced with restrictions for longer, according to the plan. Although officials say Louisiana is flattening the curve amid harsh restrictions, the state won't be among the first to reopen, Edwards said during a town hall broadcast with the Times-Picayune and the Advocate. However, he indicated the state could meet the various thresholds recommended by the feds for reopening by May 1st, when Louisiana's stay-at-home order is set to expire. New Orleans has extended its order until May 16th. This is not a cookie-cutter approach where one size fits all, Edwards said. We don't like it, but we're a hot spot here. Edwards said President Donald Trump gave deference to governors on the call, a sharp turnaround from recent days when the president asserted total authority over the pandemic response. As part of Louisiana's response, Edwards on Thursday announced the Resilient Louisiana Commission, an 18-member panel led by Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser, Louisiana Economic Development Secretary Don Pearson, and Terry Sterling, a Baton Rouge consultant and retired health executive. The state's commission comes as Trump names his own economic task force with several members of Louisiana's congressional delegation on it. Edwards said he will use the recommendations put forth by the group, along with guidance from health officials in the federal government, to help decide when and how to best reopen businesses. Louisiana still does not have the type of widespread diagnostic testing for the coronavirus that officials want to reopen the economy, Edwards said, but is not going to wait to make changes to the strict stay-at-home order in place now. An effort to get serology testing, which may determine whether people have immunity to the virus, has also hit speed bumps, said Edwards. And Edwards has said such testing is crucial to reopening. The governor noted it is not clear how much immunity people may get to the virus after recovering from it. After more than a month in mitigation mode, where the state was trying to tamp down the spread enough to avoid overwhelming hospitals, Louisiana Department of Health Assistant Secretary Alex Bilyeu said Thursday the state is moving toward suppression. The goal is to be able to quickly isolate people who test positive and do contact tracing to identify whom they came into contact with. I think we should expect that as we allow people to leave their homes, there will be more COVID cases, at least in the near term, Bilyeu told reporters following the news conference. He added officials are concerned that Louisiana already has a high death rate from the virus, amassing a death toll of 1,156 by Thursday, which makes reopening a dicier prospect here. But he said officials are hopeful that steps like wearing masks and changing how businesses operate, the governor has suggested restaurants will have lower occupancy limits, will stem that rise. Officials are also thinking about how reopening businesses can put more vulnerable people at risk. The governor said the first part of the economy to reopen will be the healthcare sector, which has been instructed to put off elective procedures since March. But like many other businesses, Edwards said clinics will look a lot different when they reopen. Patients will likely wear masks and sit in the car until they are called in, among other things. The timeline for the rest of the economy is not clear. The state's stay-at-home order is set to run through April 30, but Edwards has hinted he could extend it if the numbers warrant. New Orleans already extended its stay-at-home order until May 16. When the economy does reopen, businesses will still be faced with restrictions, Edwards indicated. Restaurants could face lower occupancy limits. Workers could be required to wear masks. People may be required to get their temperature checked before going into many buildings and have to stay home when they're sick. This is going to be a transition, said U.S. House Minority Whip Steve Scalise, a Jefferson Republican who was named to Trump's task force. There will be multiple steps over a long period of time to fully stand our economy back up. Louisiana's economy has been rocked by the virus, and some Republican state lawmakers have called for a reopening of businesses on May 1st. Edwards has said the virus will dictate when the state reopens, and on Thursday he said it would be irresponsible to reopen quickly. If the state loosens restrictions at once, health officials say they will likely be resurgence of the virus, and Edwards has said that would require him to ratchet the restrictions back up. Louisiana has flattened the number of infections, hospitalizations, and people on ventilators, data shows, but deaths remain troublingly high in a state with an unhealthier population than other places. But the numbers on the whole are encouraging, Edwards indicated, as officials were doubtful the state would tamper down the number of hospitalizations a couple of weeks ago. We're not transmitting COVID the way that we would if these measures were not in place. It's really paying off for us, and we're in a much better place than we thought was possible.
Okay, we're going to start off with our first public service announcement of the morning. AOC teams up with United Way of Acadiana for Learn United. The United Way of Acadiana has teamed up with AOC and other local groups for Learn United, bridging the digital gap to provide educational resources for households that don't have internet but do have a television. We're looking for teachers and others who could offer something of educational value to send in content to air that will enrich the lives of children staying home all day. To submit content for Learn United, visit www.unitedwayofacadiana.org/learn-united. Cancel blood drives. Coronavirus fears severely impact blood supply. FEMA CDC identified blood donation as essential function. U.S. Surgeon General tells people to get blood, essential for patients. Coronavirus responses have severely impacted the U.S. blood supply, as Vitalant and other blood centers across the country are struggling to maintain state inventories, with school closures and workers at home. 25% of Vitalant's blood donation anticipated in March have disappeared almost overnight, and that number continues to grow. Through the end of June, Vitalant, the nation's second largest blood collector, has had over 1,400 blood drives canceled, resulting in nearly 41,000 uncollected blood donations. Vitalant strongly recommends that healthy donors schedule an appointment for a donation over the coming days and weeks, instead of donating without an appointment right now, to help us better serve our donors. Please call 877-25-VITAL, that's 877-258-4825, or visit vitalant.org, that's VITALANT.org. Vitalant has nearly 125 donation centers across the country. Donors can also give blood and mobile blood drives, which must continue to be organized. Blood donors and mobile blood drives will be needed in the coming weeks and months to ensure a stable blood supply for hospitals. The Lafayette Vitalant Blood Donation Center is located at 1503 Bertrand Drive. Okay, getting back to the news. Take it away, John.
Okay. Louisiana businesses get nearly $4 billion from now empty loan fund. Many requests for federal stimulus money still pending. This is by Acadiana business editor Adam Daigle. Acadia Parish Chamber of Commerce president and CEO Amy S. Thibodeau did the math when it came to the Paycheck Protection Program, and the answer wasn't good. Considering the $349 billion allocated for small businesses affected by COVID-19 nationally, and the number of businesses that would likely apply, excuse me, it wasn't a surprise Thursday morning when the well went dry despite thousands of requests still pending. She had urged local businesses there to act as quick as possible to be among the businesses in Louisiana to get relief from the Small Business Administration. Now the fund is on hold and waiting for Congress to act. I just started throwing everything at our businesses, Thibodeau said. We started pushing information out really, really early. We as a chamber have been busier than we've ever been. Businesses have been reaching out to us from sunup to sundown. They're reaching out to me through every avenue they know how to find me. The SBA said Monday it had reached the $340 billion lending limit for the program. Thousands of small business owners whose loans have not yet been processed must now wait for Congress to approve a Trump administration request for another $250 billion for the program. Lawmakers have been haggling over whether to extend the program as it stands now, or whether to add provisions that, among other things, would help minority businesses. It's unclear when they might reach an agreement that would allow loan approvals to continue. In Louisiana, more than $3.7 billion in loans from more than 17,000 applicants were approved, SBA officials said on Monday. Banks across the state were inundated with loan applications from the start. At Home Bank in Lafayette, officials there had 2,000 applications with a dollar amount that reached $236 million, credit manager Darren Guidry said. So far, $100 million has been approved, but at least 50% of applications are on hold now that the fund has run out. We are certainly optimistic a new allocation will come out, Guidry said. Just hope that it's really soon. It's certainly a business on average with 50 employees, but in those numbers, there is a significant number with a very small amount of payroll. They've been hanging on, hoping that this would get them to reopen when all our governors and governments open up again. Many banks in Louisiana had issues submitting applications to the SBA for customers when the program began because of high demand and changing requirements. Some businesses are still waiting for the payroll protection loans to be funded, even after being approved by the SBA. Nationwide, there are more than 1 million loans approved, totaling $247.5 billion spread across 4,600 lenders. About 70% of all loans were for $150,000 or less, and the average loan size is $239,152, according to the SBA. Construction, professional services, manufacturing, and healthcare were some of the most common industries approved for loans. About 9% of all loans, or about $22 billion, were for food services and accommodation sector businesses. At Rock and Bowl, which employs 47 at its downtown Lafayette location and another 70 in New Orleans, owners were approved for a loan and were satisfied with the amount, said Johnny Blanchard, manager of the Lafayette location. The company immediately furloughed its staff with the promise it will hire them once the business gets clearance to open again. The question now is, will the loan be enough money to get to that point? There's just so much uncertainty, Blanchard said. We all want to put people back to work. I'm grateful that something was done. That number of employees is a significant amount of lives involved. We feel obliged to them, obligated to them, and they've been faithful to us as well. It's a tough situation that is no one's fault. I believe God's got a plan and there's a road out there.
Life Tabernacle Church member dies from virus. Lawyer for pastor hospitalized by David J. Mitchell. The defiant pastor of Life Tabernacle Church, who has said the power of faith and the spiritual need to gather in person, trumped Louisiana's attempt to restrict the size of crowds during the spread of the novel coronavirus, acknowledged Thursday that the pandemic had reached inside his stained glass chapel off Hooper Road. One of his congregants is dead, and a lawyer tapped to fight for his right to pack the church is ill. A 78-year-old parishioner of the Central Church died Wednesday from virus, though the Reverend Tony Spell called the coroner's determination a lie. A 59-year-old Baton Rouge man hired to represent the church has been hospitalized since Tuesday because of his own infection from the virus. It's not clear whether either man contracted the virus, and as of midday on Thursday, the state had not opened a cluster investigation into the church, the governor said. Harold Aurelian, an East Baton Rouge parish resident, died Wednesday from the COVID-19 respiratory illness linked or tied to the virus, one of 6 Baton Rouge deaths that day, according to a listing from Dr. Bill Clark, the parish coroner. The church lawyer, Jeff Winterbrink, said he attended 2 events at Life Tabernacle Church, an April 2 news conference and an April 5th church service, and has been at Baton Rouge General Medical Center since Tuesday after progressively worsening symptoms, including a high fever and a persistent cough. Winterbrink said he wasn't feeling poorly during the church services and doesn't know where he caught the virus, but added that he hadn't been careful enough during his outings in the public in recent weeks. I went to Albertsons twice a day. I went to Sam's, I went to Walmart, I went to Lowe's. I used gas pumps. I just wasn't careful. God knows where I got it. Well, maybe God.
I think he does know.
The bad thing is I might have spread it to somebody. I feel bad about that. Winterbrink was on oxygen while recovering after testing positive and admitted to the hospital, he said. On Thursday, 1,914 people in Louisiana were hospitalized because of the virus. Of the 1,156 people who have died in the state, nearly 64% were 70 or older. 20% of those infected in Louisiana are between 50 and 59 years old, the largest share of any age group, state data shows. Clark's listing in East Baton Rouge did not disclose that Aurelian was a member of Spell's church, but 3 sources told the Advocate that Aurelian had ties to Life Tabernacle. They spoke on condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to publicly discuss a link between the man and the church. Spell did not return messages last Thursday about Aurelian after the coroner released the information following a public records request from the Advocate. Spell later in the day confirmed to television stations WAFB and WVLA that Aurelian was a parishioner in good standing. Spell also disputed that Aurelian's death was due to the virus, despite the government's determination. That is a lie, Spell told WAFB. Attempts to reach Aurelian's wife and his siblings in the Baton Rouge area were either unsuccessful or ended with no comment. The State Department of Health had said it identifies a cluster as 2 or more cases that appear to be connected. During the midday news conference yesterday, Governor John Bel Edwards was asked if the church was being investigated as a possible coronavirus. I said that about 50 million times in the last couple of weeks. Coronavirus cluster. I am not aware of any investigation, he said. At the time, news of the lost lawyer's hospitalization was only just appearing online. Since then, Aurelian's death has come to light. A Department of Health spokesman didn't immediately return a call or email for comment on Thursday about the church in light of the latest developments. Spell's fight against Edwards' orders, along with a handful of other religious leaders nationally against similar restrictions, have attracted worldwide attention. He has been charged with 6 misdemeanor counts of violating Edwards' orders. While many houses of worship have converted to online services, Spell maintains that in-person services are essential to his congregation's faith and financial well-being. The conflict puts the bedrock rights of religious freedom and free assembly against the government's imperative to protect the public from a highly infectious disease without a known vaccine and stressed medical facilities. Spell, who has faced criticism over his stand, has made several provocative comments about the virus and the resulting controversy, including telling TMZ that true Christians do not mind dying from the virus, but fear living in fear, cowardice of their convictions. Winterbrink is serving as a local counsel for Roy Moore, the former Alabama Supreme Court Chief Justice and next Senate candidate who's helping to represent Spell and his church in an expected legal fight over Edwards' social distancing restrictions. Spell introduced Winterbrink before he spoke briefly to the pastor's congregation during the April 2nd news conference and rally discussing the church's planned legal fight with Moore's aid. Moore also attended the event and spoke. Spell, who has claimed Edwards' restrictions are an attack on religion, said Thursday that he knew Winterbrink had contracted the coronavirus, but has been speaking with him and was praying for him. Spell said he has informed the congregation of Winterbrink's illnesses. Spell's comments came before news of Aurelian's death came to light, and the pastor did not return subsequent attempts to reach him. Winterbrink said his illness hasn't changed his determination to represent Spell and the church on his belief in the righteousness of their cause. I'm very proud of Pastor Spell. I think he's one of the few people who understands we shouldn't just throw away our civil liberties without a fight just because there's some kind of crisis going on, he said. He said that during the services he attended at Spell's church, members practiced social distancing measures, including having their temperatures taken, sanitizing their hands, and spacing among those inside. Family groups sat together. Spell added that images circulating recently on Facebook that appear to show parishioners in the church in close contact with from 3 years ago. Okay, we're almost sort of at our half-hour break. We can do one more story and then go to our day in history and horoscope.
Okay. Schools, child care centers to get stimulus aid by Will Centel. Louisiana public schools are set to get an estimated $287 million, and child care providers nearly $10 million to help offset problems sparked by the coronavirus pandemic, officials said Thursday. The aid is coming from the $2.2 trillion federal rescue package called the CARES Act, aimed at stabilizing the economy amid skyrocketing unemployment claims and the shuttering of much of the nation's economy. Public schools were closed on March 16, and Governor John Bel Edwards signed a proclamation Wednesday directing classes to remain closed for the rest of the academic year because of the virus. Superintendents have said the stimulus aid could be vital in efforts to finance a summer school or other activities as educators try to reduce learning gaps sparked by students missing about 9 weeks of traditional instruction. Child care centers are allowed to operate, but nearly 70% of licensed facilities in the state have closed and plummeting attendance, mostly because of health concerns. Providers said in a survey taken last month that they have already lost $1.7 million because of the virus, a figure that is likely much higher today. The state has not gotten its allocation of dollars for public schools yet. However, the Congressional Research Service estimates that Louisiana is in line to get $287 million. Catherine Posniak, Assistant State Superintendent of Education, said the money can be used by school districts for a wide range of coronavirus-related reasons, including summer school. The money would be the state's portion of a roughly $30 billion allotment for public schools, colleges, and universities in the federal legislation. Colleges in Louisiana are set to get $147.1 million. Both public schools and colleges will also get a portion of a third part of the bill called the Governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund, which totals $50 million. Posniak said state officials are expected to learn details of the state's public school aid in the next few weeks. The money is based largely on federal Title I aid, which is aimed at assisting students from low-income families. About two-thirds of the state's nearly 720,000 students fit that description. The state usually gets about $330 million per year in Title I dollars. The nearly $10 million for child care sites is aimed at keeping centers open or allowing those shut down to resume operations. The money will benefit about 900 providers statewide who take part in the Child Care Assistance Program, which assists low-income families with child care costs while parents work, attend school, or undergo job training. The center's targeted service more than 58,000 children from birth to age 13. Child care providers can apply for the financial assistance through a form due by April 23rd and available at louisianabelieves.com. State officials have said most children attending early learning centers are the sons and daughters of doctors, nurses, and other critical workers. The state earlier launched a program to assist those families regardless of income. In normal times, child care providers are a linchpin of our society, Assistant Superintendent Jessica Bangian said in a statement. In these scary and uncertain times, the work of those remaining open is a matter of life and death. A survey by the Louisiana Policy Institute for Children said 1/3 of providers who responded said an extended closure would force them to remain closed permanently.
All right, it's time for our day in history and our zodiac or horoscope, as I refer to it. So today is Friday, April 17th, the 108th day of 2020. There are 258 potential shopping days left in the year. Today's highlight in history: on April 17th, 1961, some 1,500 CIA-trained Cuban exiles launched the disastrous Bay of Pigs invasion of Cuba in an attempt to topple Fidel Castro, whose forces crushed the incursion by the third day. On this date, in 1492, a contract was signed by Christopher Columbus and a representative of Spain's King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, giving Columbus a commission to seek a westward ocean passage to Asia. In 1521, Martin Luther went before the Diet of Worms to face changes stemming from his religious writings. Luther was later declared an outlaw by Holy Roman Emperor Charles V. In 1969, a jury in Los Angeles convicted Sirhan of assassinating Senator Robert F. Kennedy. In 1970, Apollo 13 astronauts James A. Lovell, Fred W. Hayes, and Jack Swigert splashed down safely in the Pacific 4 days after a ruptured oxygen tank crippled their spacecraft while en route to the moon. In 1972, the Boston Marathon allowed women to compete for the first time. Nina Cusick was the first officially recognized women's champion with a time of 3 hours, 10 minutes, and 26 seconds. In 1973, Federal Express, later FedEx, began operations as 14 planes carrying 186 packages took off from Memphis International Airport, bound for 25 U.S. cities. In 1975, Cambodia's 5-year war ended as the capital Phnom Penh fell to the Khmer Rouge, which insulted brutal, radical policies, claimed an estimated 1.7 million lives until the regime was overthrown in 1979. In 1993, a federal jury in Los Angeles convicted 2 former police officers violating the civil rights of beaten motorist Rodney King. 2 other officers were acquitted. 10 years ago, some 100,000 Poles filled Warsaw's biggest public square, joining together for a memorial and funeral mass for the 96 people killed in a plane crash a week earlier. 5 years ago, President Barack Obama left open the door to creative negotiations in response to Iran's demand that punishing sanctions be immediately lifted as part of the nuclear deal. The president spoke at a White House news conference with Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi. 1 year ago, just days after Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris was ravaged by a fire, police in New York said they had arrested a college philosophy teacher who they said had entered St. Patrick's Cathedral carrying 2 cans of gasoline, lighter fluid, and butane lighters. They said he also had booked a flight to Rome the following day. A judge later decided to commit the man to a mental health facilities. Today's birthdays: actor David Bradley is 78. Composer musician Jan Hammer, one of my faves, is 72. Let's see, rapper Africa Bambaataa is 63. Actor Sean Bean is 61. Former NFL quarterback Boomer Esiason is 59. Actor Henry Ian Cusick is 53. Rapper actor Redmond is 50. Let's see, actor Tate Ellington is 41. Actress Rooney Mara is 35. And actress Dee Dee Davis is 24. Thought for today: a cynic is not merely one who reads bitter lessons from the part, he is one who is prematurely disappointed in the future. Sidney J. Harris, who's that quote from? An American journalist from 1917 to 1986. And now we turn to our zodiac or horoscope.
Okay. So our horoscope for today is as follows. Aries. Your charm and helpful suggestions will win favors. Make sure that you don't commit to something you don't have the time or money to complete. Who doesn't have time right now? That's what I want to know. Moderation will be required. Taurus. Delegate your time wisely. Okay. You don't want to neglect someone special or fall short when it comes to promises you made. Consider an interesting offer. Gemini. Intelligent banter will encourage others to take you seriously. Participate in events that will raise your profile. Contributions you make will change your life. Romance is on the rise. Cancer. A creative idea will push you in an unexpected direction. Don't worry about pleasing everyone else. Stop worrying about what others think and do what's best for you. Leo. Consider your motives. To judge others without taking a good look at yourself isn't going to help. Focus on educational pursuits, honest conversations, and meaningful relationships. Virgo, deceit is apparent when it comes to partnerships. Uh-oh. You should be direct in all manners and look at each situation you face in detail. Libra, moderation will help you sidestep a problem. Distance yourself from people who overspend, exaggerate, and promote indulgence. I do that all the time anyway. Discipline and sticking to a routine are in your best interest. Romance is favored. Okay. Scorpio, keep jealousy under control. A loved one will not be impressed if you are overly possessive. Focus on being unique, innovative, and independent. Make a long overdue lifestyle change. Sagittarius, someone will reveal your secrets if you share your inner thoughts. Don't jeopardize your reputation or believe everything you hear. Rely on experience, intelligence, and charm to get ahead. Capricorn, deal swiftly with inevitable changes. The less time you spend laboring over something you cannot change, the easier it will be to step into something new and exciting. Aquarius, take a deep breath and forge into the future with optimism. Personal gains, new beginnings, and a positive lifestyle change await. Put the past to rest. Romance is on the rise. Pisces, reach out to people you have enjoyed collaborating with in the past. Attend a reunion or visit places and do things you used to enjoy. Well, you have to do that after May 1st, at least. Choose to be positive. Well, I like that one. The horoscope, an entertainment feature, is not based on scientific fact.
Nor are the writers of the current horoscope contributing their advice to us based on the coronavirus pandemic. I mean, I've read a lot of these in the last couple of days, and they're all about, getting together with people. And,
well, some of them, just this one. Attend a reunion. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so. So I don't think these are being written in conjunction with the protocols, which is funny.
Sure.
Yeah, which is funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so usually on Fridays I like to sneak in a little bit of entertainment news. So I'm going to read you an article right now called "Home Sweet Home: Louis Michaud's Nouveau Electric Records Charges Ahead" by John Wirt, entertainment writer out of the Baton Rouge area. In February, Cajun musician Louis Michaud laid big plans for his music label, Nouveau Electric Records, a new recording released every Friday in April. The spring was also supposed to be Michaud's busiest festival season in years. All of the bands he performs with, including the Grammy-winning Lost Body Ramblers, were booked, but the crowd-control directives intended to slow the coronavirus pandemic, stop festivals and concerts throughout Louisiana and the U.S. And we're going to get into an article in a little bit about the Jazz Fest. Even if his concert calendar has proceeded as planned, the industrious Michaud would somehow have met his ambitious Nouveau Electric release schedule. But it would have been a stretch he made from his home near Arnoldville. Luckily, I have already started those balls rolling, so now I have something to focus on. Kind of perfect timing to release digital and physical music to people while they're at home. Rather than performing throughout Louisiana and the nation, Michaud is at home with his wife Ashley Wilson Michaud and their 3 sons. It's a sudden change of plans, but I'm finding the silver lining, he said. Really, it's a special time. As long as we stay healthy and safe, there is a lot to be gained from it. Michaud isn't fretting his family's isolation, in part because both he and his eldest son, Julian, 11, have asthma. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says people with moderate to severe asthma who contract COVID-19 potentially can become seriously ill. We have 16 acres and we've been keeping the gate locked, Michaud said. We don't want to take any risks. Ashley Michaud, co-founder of their band, Soul Creole, also sees the positive of staying home. Lou has to leave pretty often, she said. Not for long, but it's always a balancing act. So yeah, Now has been a good space, as good as it can be given these times. Working from home, Louis Michaud is proceeding full speed ahead with his label's releases. 2 weeks ago, an EP by Weeks Island, the solo project from Johnny Campos of Lost Bayou Ramblers, arrived, and last week saw the recording debut from Soul Creole, the trio featuring the Michauds and Zydeco singer-accordionist Corey Ledette. This week's offering is an in-concert album by Le String Noise, featuring Michaud, New Orleans' Layla McCalla, and the classical avant-punk violin duo Pauline Kim and Conrad Harris. The other release, dropping April 24th, is an album by the traditional Cajun and Creole band Goldman Thibodeau and the Wattel Playboys. All 4 releases are important to Michel, but the Soul Creole single, Trois Rings, 3 Rings, is closest to home. Composed and sung by Ashley Michaud, the song celebrates the Cajun French culture she and her husband treasure. Troy Rings, Ashley Michaud explained, is about tapping into an older aesthetic and knowledge. It's also about the use of 3s in our culture. Trinity, the Holy Family, 3 band members, 3 instruments. And it's about encouragement that we will continue. That's serendipitous. So I'm happy it's coming out now. Ashley writes amazing songs, Louis said. She has had a great musical mind, even though she's not a long-term instrumentalist. From start of production to release, Trois Rings was a year in the making. We took our time, and it's everything we wanted and more, Louis Michaud said. Ledette is fine, too, with releasing no song before his time. We just don't want to slap something out there and say, hey, that's it, he said. We want to just let it grow and form itself. Trois Rings is available in the conventional version and a dub remix by Corey Ritchie, the Lost Bayou Rambler, who works with LCD Sound System and Arcade Fire. The original song has this great Zydeco original musical feeling, Louis Michaud said. But I hear the dub in the original. We let Corey Ritchie have it for as long as he needed. We were so amazed by the result. That's just where my ear felt it wanted to go. The Michauds and Ledette formed Soul Creole in 2012, took a hiatus for a few years, and then fell naturally back together in 2017. The thing about it is that there are 3 front people, Louis Michaud said. Corey Ledette, who's a human jukebox and a virtuoso accordion player, and I can attest to that because I've seen him play, and he's unbelievable. He's like the Hendrix of accordion. And Ashley and I, we're not husband and wife in the band, we're independent artists. She's amazing in her own right. Although listeners who enjoy innovative roots music can't personally experience Soul Creole, he shows melody makers, Lost Bayou Ramblers, or Pocatry. The Ramblers' collaborations were former Pogues, Spider Stacy, and Kate Wordy, whatever. At the moment, he shows Nouveau Electric recordings provide some relief. I miss the gigging, but I love staying home and focusing on this every day, he said. I'm so thankful for Lou, Ashley Michaud said. He hustles. We were worried, but I've been loving this time. Nouveau Electric releases are available from NouveauElectricRecords.com, Nouveau Electric Records Bandcamp.com, and streaming and digital music platforms. And I will read a PSA about it, but for the last 3 or 4 Fridays, DTA has been coming to you live on Facebook and at AOCinc.org. Tonight at 7 p.m. will be Corey Ledette. Last week was Ashley and Louis Michaud, which I watched, which was very, very interesting. And they brought their kids in at the end. It was really cool. But Corey's tonight, starting at 7 p.m. Tune in on Downtown Lafayette's Facebook page or AOCinc.org. All right, folks, back to the news.
Oh, there's this.
There is.
I was thinking about a sports story, but there's no sports. My goodness. Okay, here we go. 2020 New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival canceled by Keith Sparrow. Since 2013, Troy trombone Shorty Andrews and his punk rock band Orleans Avenue have headlined the New Orleans Jazz in Heritage Festival's main Acura stage on the final Sunday. Not this year, no one will. After surviving fire, rain, and Hurricane Katrina, Jazz Fest succumbed to the novel coronavirus. On Thursday, the festival's producers announced the 2020 Jazz Fest was canceled after initially being postponed. The 8-day extravaganza of New Orleans music, food, and culture typically draws hundreds of thousands of locals and visitors to the fairgrounds each spring. Across its half-century history, Jazz Fest has grown to an annual economic powerhouse second only to Carnival on the local calendar. It takes something truly momentous to interrupt the 50-year New Orleans tradition as special as the festival. But we feel strongly that the most prudent course right now is to allow more time for the situation to stabilize, the festival's producers said in a statement. We thank everyone for their patience as we have considered all of the matters necessary to making this difficult decision. Looking ahead, next year's Jazz Fest is scheduled for April 22 to May 2nd, 2021. Tickets purchased for this year will be valid in 2021. Notifications about refunds for 2020 tickets will be sent by April 22nd. The roster for what would have been the 51st Jazz Fest included The Who, Dead and Company, Lizzo, the Foo Fighters, Stevie Nicks, Lionel Richie, the Lumineers, Black Crowes, Brandi Carlile, Erykah Badu, Lenny Kravitz, H.E.R., Norah Jones, the Wu-Tang Clan, Frankie Beverly and Maze, Chick Corea, and hundreds of regional acts. The first of 2 4-day weekends at the fairgrounds was originally to have kicked off April 23rd. The nonprofit New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation owns Jazz Fest and spends its proceeds on cultural and educational programs. As recently as an April 9th meeting via the online platform Zoom, the foundation's 27 board members were reportedly still considering various options and budgets for staging some form of the 2020 festival in October. But over the past week, the ever-changing landscape of the pandemic shifted once again, and the 2020 festival's fate was sealed. The final decision to cancel Jazz Fest reportedly involved the foundation's executive committee and officers and the festival's co-producers, Quint Davis's Festival Productions, Inc., New Orleans, and global live entertainment powerhouse AEG. New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell apparently also weighed in. During a Tuesday news conference, she said she had spoken to festival organizers about calling off their events because of the potential of the coronavirus threat lingering into fall. My recommendation is absolutely no large events such as French Quarter Fest and Jazz Fest, even Essence Festival, as it relates to the year of 2020, Cantrell said Tuesday. The focus should shift to 2021. So far, producers of the French Quarter Festival, which was scheduled from this week to October 1 through 4, and the Voodoo Experience in City Park, which is Halloween weekend, have not announced any changes to their plans. On Wednesday, producers of the Essence Festival of Culture announced the cancellation of the 2020 Fest, which they'd previously bumped back from the July 4 weekend to an unspecified date closer to the fall. Jazz Fest ended up following a similar playbook. On March 17, Festival Productions announced the fest would be pushed back to the fall, with the new dates to be revealed later. For Jazz Fest to now be canceled entirely is an even greater disappointment and a devastating blow to New Orleans music community. For many local musicians and music venues, it is the most lucrative stretch of the year. Meters bassist George Porter Jr. typically plays with everybody and their grandmother during Jazz Fest, averaging 15 gigs between the fairgrounds and nighttime club shows. That bonanza accounts for 20% of his annual income. To know there will be no Jazz Fest this year is definitely a weird feeling, Porter said. The members of bilingual pop band Sweet Crude used Jazz Fest to debut the costumes and sets they'll use on tour for the rest of the year. Jazz Fest is our coming out party for the season, said Sweet Crude's Sam Kraft. That's the high water mark for our year. Playing Jazz Fest is like going on a world tour. We find ourselves in Europe or Canada, and people will come up and say, "We saw you at Jazz Fest. That's how we know about you." Andrews plans much of his year around Jazz Fest. In addition to his high-profile slot at the fairgrounds, he headlines his annual Treme Throwdown at the Sanger Theater and a fundraiser for his foundation. Really is all based around Jazz Fest, Andrews said. If Jazz Fest doesn't go, then my events will go as well. It's disappointing that it's not going to happen, but this virus is very serious. I'd rather be safe and healthy so that we can jam and have fun with people from around the world and do what we normally do.
All right, folks, so we're getting close to where the TV stations will cut off our signal, but we're going to continue this morning. So like Matt, if you're tuning in late, Matt Roberts, official staff member of AOC, did announce that we will continue, your voices will continue to be heard at AOC Community Media on YouTube or Cypress Street Radio, our streaming radio station online. So there's a lot of news still to cover. So we're gonna continue doing that for the benefit of those who need it. And there is I believe there is a sports story in there. So we're gonna continue, but let me give you a couple of PSAs. But in about a minute, the TV stations signal will tune off, and you can go, like I said, to YouTube, AOC Community Media, or Cypress Street Radio streaming online.
So the sports story is that there are no sports stories.
More than likely.
Yeah.
But let's get back to some PSAs for a second. The Keeping Calm Through the COVID hotline. I've been announcing this recently. If you're feeling overwhelmed with stress, fear, and anxiety about the uncertainty surrounding the public health emergency, there is a special Keeping Calm Through COVID hotline you can call. This connects you to trained, compassionate counselors who can offer support and who can direct you to mental health and substance abuse counseling services. Trained counselors are available 24/7. All calls are confidential. If you're feeling this stress and you need to reach out to somebody, please call 1-866-310-7977. That's 866-310-7977. Okay, and Medicaid resources. If you lost your job or if you have reduced hours, you may be eligible for Medicaid. You can apply online at mymedicaid.la.gov. You can also apply by phone. It might be hard to get through at first, but you can try, various times by calling 1-888-342-6207. That's 888-342-6207. Or by mail by sending information to Louisiana Medicaid, P.O. Box 91283, Baton Rouge, LA 70821. Local Medicaid offices are currently closed to the public. If additional assistance is needed, again, you can call 1-888-342-6207. All right, back to the stories. Dawn?
We have time. Underemployed workers may make more by being unemployed, by Tyler Bridges. Workers who have suffered a cut in hours and pay may actually bring in more money if they get laid off, the head of the state unemployment agency acknowledged Thursday. People who become underemployed because of the coronavirus pandemic and now earn $400 per week, for example, are ineligible state and federal unemployment benefits. Ava DeJoy, Secretary of the Louisiana Workforce Commission, told talk show host Newell Norman on WWL.am. That's because anyone who earns more than $247 a week, the maximum state payment for jobless workers, is ineligible for the program, DeJoy said. She was clarifying remarks she had made on Norman's show a week earlier, but in doing so revealed a quirk in the way unemployment benefits are being paid out in the end of the coronavirus. Someone who qualifies for unemployment could receive up to $847 per week, the $247 state benefit, plus the $600 the federal government is providing through July 31. The $847 would be more than double the earnings of the person who is making $400 per week working part-time. There are instances where you'd be better off furloughed or laid off than employed, Norman said, noting that low-income workers who are still employed might have a similarly perverse incentive to get laid off. DeJoy's agency has come under fierce criticism in recent days from newly jobless workers who have been unable to file unemployment claims because the phone system and the website are overloaded. If people do succeed in filing a claim, it often comes only after Herculean efforts. Others complain about the agency's inability to resolve problems that prevent them from beginning to collect any benefits or the full amount owed. Many jobless workers who are owed two $600 payments from the federal government are grossing that they received only one this week from the Workforce Commission. We are working to get those issues resolved as soon as possible, DeJoy told Norman. We realize the system is slow. Please be patient. We want to pay everyone. Jobless workers who were laid off last year and have recently exhausted their 26 weeks of unemployment benefits also aren't getting paid, DeJoy acknowledged to a caller named Gail. I don't know what to do, Gail said, adding that she was repeatedly contact the Workforce Commission to try to collect the extended benefits. The $2.2 trillion federal stimulus and relief package gave unemployed people such as Gail another 13 weeks of benefits, DeJoy noted, but she said her agency hasn't yet been able to set up the system to extend the benefits to them.
All right, the COVID-19 coronavirus, the latest. Lafayette schools prep for rest of the year. Plans for graduations, distance learning in the works by Katie Gagliano. Lafayette Parish School System is finalizing plans for a distanced end to the school year after Governor John Bel Edwards signed a proclamation closing K-12 school buildings through the end of the academic year to prevent further spread of the novel coronavirus. Edwards announced the official closure at a Wednesday news conference after hints earlier in the week. Edwards solidified the move after urging the Louisiana Board of Secondary and Elementary Education, or BESE, and the Louisiana Association of School Superintendents, who sent letters last week calling for the governor to physically close schools for student and staff safety. Unfortunately, recently reported data suggests that much of our population in Louisiana is particularly vulnerable and susceptible to this virus as confirmed cases continue to rise. The Federal Centers for Disease Control and Prevention factors in long-term facilities closures based on available science indicates that the citizens of our state are more at risk if children and staff are introduced into these facilities too soon, the BESE letter said. Lafayette Superintendent Irma Trosclair sent a letter to parents Thursday addressing the closure and reassuring families the district is considering all avenues, but few details were available about what a distant school would look like. Our team has been planning for many different scenarios as we begin to see the number of coronavirus cases rise in our region. With this announcement of school closures, many details still need to be finalized before we can share information with families, such as continuing to enhance opportunities for optional learning and how to finalize the school year, the superintendent wrote. District spokeswoman Allison Dickerson and administrators are looking to the Louisiana Department of Education to clarify on what elements of the response, like grade remediation, grade level, and advancement and completion of the academic year, will be mandated by the state and which will be left to the district's discretion. Conversations are active. Lafayette school system administrators have at least one call with the state Thursday. Sorting that out must come before any plans are announced, she said. The Lafayette school system initially opted not to continue formal distance learning because of disparities in internet and technology access that could set children without home access behind and widen performance gaps. Instead, the district provided supplemental learning materials through teachers and launched an e-learn program with weekly lessons tailored to each grade level. Trosclair said that in her letter, the district is preparing printed materials for students who without internet and computer access. Dixon said the materials will be variations of the supplemental materials posted online and will not be mandatory coursework. It's possible printed course materials could factor into the district's plan for completing the school year, she said. High school seniors are picking up graduation supplies at their school hall this week, even as the district determines if all students will be able to graduate and in what form the ceremonies will be held. Dickerson said seniors are a top focus for the district. With the year-end testing not occurring, the district is working with teachers and counselors to establish a plan for evaluating each senior to determine if they've met graduation requirements. Discussions are also ongoing about what remediation opportunities are possible and what the remediation would look like. The spokeswoman said more information about seniors and evaluating each student's path to graduation will be available next week. The district is currently on its scheduled spring break, and administrators committed to respecting the vacation time for teachers and staff. Though teachers are working from home, they are still working, Dickerson said. Graduation ceremonies remain set for May 22nd and 23rd on the district calendar, but are subject to change, especially now that the calendar is under review following the governor's order, Dickerson said. We have stated before we will celebrate our seniors. We don't know in what form or fashion that will look like, but we will honor them, she said. And let me just click on here, see if this is a sports-related story that you could read tonight. Pandemic adoptions. Yeah, we're still live.
Okay.
We're still live. Doesn't look like there are any sports stories.
Okay.
So we can just go here. City offering birthday parades for kids.
Okay. City offering birthday parties for kids by Megan Wyatt. The stay-at-home order that's saving lives and protecting healthcare resources during the coronavirus crisis is also leaving countless children unable to celebrate their birthdays with traditional parties. That's why public officials in Broussard recently launched on-demand parade services to surprise children with lights and sirens at their homes. That's great. It's one of many creative ways communities are helping children celebrate their special day without risking further spread of COVID-19. Like many other small cities, Broussard hasn't been overwhelmed by coronavirus cases, but has felt the impact of the shutdown. City leaders have been trying to identify ways to help citizens and businesses when gatherings and non-essential services have come to a standstill. They'd seen social media posts about police cars and fire trucks parading by homes in other parts of the country, but they weren't sure if using emergency resources for something like a child's birthday would be worthwhile. In the grand scheme of things, does it make that much of a difference? Said Holly Copeland, Broussard's Director of Public Relations and Tourism. And it seems like it does. It's not such a hard thing to do, but from the feedback we're getting, it's been pretty huge for people. The Broussard Fire and Police Departments began offering on-demand parades for children last week, and they're planning to continue until the stay-at-home mandate is lifted. With dozens of requests in only a few days, Broussard's first responders have a new kind of emergency to respond to these days, even if the flames are just on the lonely candles of a birthday cake. Learn more or request a drive-by celebration by calling the Broussard Fire Department, 337-837-9867, extension 4.
Okay, this let's go through there since I did a PSA on that. And let's see, LA, Louisiana beat some projections for hospitalizations and ventilators. Stay-at-home order credited with helping stave off worst case scenario by Sam Carlin, staff writer for the COVID-19. Louisiana hasn't come as close to running out of hospital beds or ventilators as models predicted, and outcome officials attributed to a combination of the success of a stay-at-home order that has tamped down infections and the worst case assumptions that were baked into the state's numbers. In the hard-hit New Orleans region, for instance, state models projected 2,927 people would have been hospitalized with coronavirus at this point, with social distancing in effect, but without a stay-at-home order. As of Thursday, 790 coronavirus patients were in hospitals in greater New Orleans area, fewer than the 1,024 projected at this point with the stay-at-home order in effect. Health Department data shows similarly good news for ventilator use in the New Orleans region, where 156 were on ventilators as of yesterday, Thursday, compared with 397 projected with the stay-at-home order in effect. More than 1,000 were expected to be on ventilators without the order, according to the models. The data illustrates the state has moved dramatically in the opposite direction from previous weeks when officials raced to build temporary hospitals and secure ventilators because models show the New Orleans region was on track to run out of beds and ventilators in early April. Officials say the improvement comes from the stay-at-home order severely slowing the spread, as well as key metrics looking significantly better than expected. For instance, Alex Billio, Assistant Secretary from the state's Office of Public Health, said officials initially projected 20% of those affected would be hospitalized and 30% of those people would be put on ventilators. The average hospital stay for coronavirus patients was projected at 14 days, and the length of time people would be on ventilators was projected at 20 days. All those numbers look better than the projections, Billio said. Into the stay-at-home order, about 14% of those affected are hospitalized with a length of stay of 10 days or average, while early on, Louisiana saw 36% of those hospitalized on ventilators. That has fallen to 22%, with the average patient being on a ventilator for 14 days. These numbers are built based on the duration of infection, which is about 14 days, but how much virus those infected shed and how many people they come in contact with. The projections show the New Orleans region could have neared 100,000 infections by May without any action. Okay, you want to read about all living at St. John's Veterans Home?
All living at St. John Veterans Home to be tested. Refineries rise in the background outside the Southeast Louisiana Veterans Home and Reserve. All residents of the nursing home, where 19 residents have died from COVID-19, will be tested for the coronavirus, officials said. At least 19 deaths at Reverse facility attributed to the virus by Gordon Russell. All residents of the Southeast Louisiana Veterans Home and Reserve will be tested for the coronavirus, officials say, a policy meant to finally and fully map the extent of the virus in a nursing home whose population has been decimated by the pandemic. So far, 19 residents of the home have died from COVID-19. St. John the Baptist Parish coroner Christy Montague said Thursday. He suspects the virus was the cause of 2 other deaths and is awaiting the results of tests done posthumously. He noted hopefully that the home hasn't had a coronavirus-related death in 2 days. Brandy Patrick, a spokeswoman for the State Department of Veterans Affairs, said 10 living residents of the home have tested positive for the virus so far. That number includes 4 who have recovered and are back in the home, 3 who are ill but are living at the home, and 3 who are in the hospital, she said in an email. The home has 156 beds, but is currently housing 101 residents, Patrick said. Patrick could not say how many residents of the veterans home had been tested and had a negative result before the ramped up testing regime was announced this week. But she added, we have throughout this pandemic consistently tested every resident recommended for testing by their physician. Test results are now pending for 39 of the remaining residents, and the rest will be tested soon. Results should come within 5 days of testing, adding that residents' families will be kept abreast of the results. The new protocol of testing all residents was recommended by the home's medical director after additional COVID-19 testing was made available to our home by the State Office of Public Health and St. James Hospital. The rash of fatalities at the home is one reason that St. John has among the highest per capita death rates from COVID-19 of all U.S. counties. Roughly 40% of deaths attributed to the virus in the parish have involved residents of the home, one of 5 similar facilities for veterans located around Louisiana. Nursing homes and senior centers across Louisiana have accounted for about a quarter of the 1,103 deaths the state has seen so far. The Veterans Home and Reserve and Lambeth House in uptown New Orleans, where the virus has killed 18 people, are the 2 biggest known clusters. In the last 2 months, a total of 44 residents have died at the Veterans Home. Since March 23rd, when the first case of the virus was detected in a resident of the home, 35 have died. Patrick said Thursday that the home began rigorous medical screenings of employees arriving to work on March 11, 2 days after the first case of the coronavirus was detected in Louisiana. March 13 marked the first day an employee stayed home because of a positive test, she said. In total, 18 workers at the facility have now tested positive, according to Patrick. 8 are still out with the virus, while 10 have recovered and have been cleared to work. Montague and Patrick have both said it's possible that some of the 24 recent deaths at the veterans' home, in which COVID-19 was not marked as the culprit, could in fact have been caused by the coronavirus, but that question will likely never be answered. If you could go back, maybe in the first half of March, there were some deaths we were called on where we might have found some COVID, Montague said. We were really not keying in on COVID at the time. There are also cases like that of Robert Handy, who died at 87 after a rapid decline, according to his daughters Ginger Rokas and Barbara Schnauder. On March 29, the morning of their father's death, Rokas and Schnauder got a call from a hospice nurse who said they should head over immediately to say their goodbyes. He was dead within an hour, they said, and they weren't allowed to see him because the facility was on lockdown. Handy was never tested, and his death is not among those considered a COVID-19 death, according to Montague. But Rokas and Schnauder wonder, given the suddenness of his demise and the fact that it occurred amid a massive outbreak at the home. They also note that the funeral home that received his body was told the virus was suspected in his death.
All right. I like to leave usually on a light note. So that's pretty much it for the news. I do want to reiterate something that I said earlier about the Downtown Alive or DTA. Before I do that, let me say stop the spread, call instead. For the latest COVID-19 updates and information, visit www.311lafayette.services. Call centers with volunteers and medical professionals are active 24/7 to answer your questions about COVID-19 and determine if you need to get screened. You may also call 311 and press option 2 if you are a business owner, employee, or are looking for job information about applying for small business recovery loans, even though we read an article that said that they basically have run out of money. Apply for unemployment benefits and related programs. Also, free lunches will be serving daily starting at 11 a.m. at the RoboShow Center located at 1919 Eras Landry Road. I would call the RoboShow Center to make sure they're still doing this. But as far as I know, every day the Recreation Center is offering a limited number of lunches available to pick up for individuals who find themselves suddenly and at no fault of their own, unemployed or underemployed due to the COVID-19 crisis. Lunches will be served starting at 11 a.m. Lunches will be served from Walk-On's Sports Bistro, compliments of Drew Brees and the Breeze Dream Foundation. The lunches are on a first-come, first-served basis. Thanks to the Lafayette Fire Department for helping to distribute meals and Lafayette Police Department for helping with traffic and security. The RoboShow Recreation Center is located at 1919 Eras Landry Road. And again, I would call over there just to make sure that they are still passing out lunches. And finally, on a light note or an upper note, entertainment note, Downtown Live DTA sessions, home sessions, are a series of stay-at-home Friday night concerts for Acadiana, presented by Evangeline Maid and organized by Downtown Lafayette. The house sessions are a way for all of us to help Acadiana musicians who are out of work during the ongoing coronavirus situation. The series will support local musicians and make staying home fun. Tonight at 7 p.m., you can join Corey Leday airing live on the Downtown Alive Facebook page and right here on AOC 1, Cox 15, LUS 3, or I should say right here streaming at aocinc.org/watch. So there's a way that you can, there's a tip jar, you can put in money. I did last week for the Me shows, or you can buy merchandise, or you can continue to support the musicians here in Lafayette whose primary source of income is through gigs. So please let's help our local musicians, which is a huge portion of our culture here in Acadiana. Well, that about wraps it up for this morning. This has been Bruce Cohen.
And Danon.
And this is our first co-reading since the pandemic, since the offices were closed. So we appreciate you tuning in, especially past the time that we usually go. We appreciate that if you continue to listen to us. Please stay safe and healthy, and above all, be kind to each other. Any last words?
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands.
And stay 6 feet away from people.
And
seriously.
And help each other out when you can.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
check on your neighbors.
Check on your neighbors. Reach out to people you haven't reached out to in a while just to make sure they're okay. And one last thing, a huge thanks to all the first responders and everybody on the front lines helping us get through this pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our hearts go out to you.
They are our angels on earth, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you, and be kind to each other.